some responses to come through. But are you seeing any chat come through?
No, I was just about to say this is supposed to be interactive, ladies and gents. So let's get into the chat box, please.
Thank you for the first one. More confidence in my game. Brilliant. Confidence, Kieran. Many thanks. Any questions for me on what we talked about?
It doesn't let anybody put anything into the chat.
Does it not? Thank you. Right. No, we've got Charles got through. Don't know what we've done with our settings there. I'll let Budge work on that in the background as I carry on. All right. So as I say, I'd encourage you guys just, if you can, to put some responses in that chat box there. So what are we going to have a look at today? So we have been building up over the last couple of weeks, focusing on your confidence. And we're going to have a quick refresh on what knocks that confidence. And chatting with Budge this week, we felt like one of the focuses for today's session should really be around big matches and how you prepare. And with that, we're very much looking at that physical preparation as well as the mental preparation that goes alongside it. And one of the areas we'll focus on then is that level of, oops, just knocked my specs off, that level of activation that you have in your game, and raising your awareness of what that looks like. So that's the focus of today's session. And continuing on that kind of self-awareness theme, we're just going to refresh on what knocks, what kind of decreases or impacts that confidence. In our last session, we really talked about and focused on those pressures and expectations that you can have on yourself, whether it's your own expectations or the expectations of others, and the pressure that brings with it. Aligned with that, we also highlighted that stinking thinking, the chat that goes on in our heads around our performance, and quite often the doubts that come into our heads when we're kind of questioning will we be able to play the way we want to on the big occasions or when it counts. And we also know that if we haven't been playing well, we know that if we haven't been practice/training well, that can also impact the confidence that we take into match day. And finally then, the final piece of this puzzle so far and confidence is around our poor preparation. And if we think back to the previous sessions, I had that graphic around what impacts, and the final piece there was that poor preparation. And would you imagine that's where we're going to focus tonight's session, and really how you go about getting ready and preparing for the big matches that you guys are playing. So I've got a couple of questions for you. Again, if you can and are able, can you put some responses into the chat box? But we're really focused on those big matches that you have coming up, that you're facing, whether or not it's the blitz that's coming forward, or a big match for your school or your club. But I'm going to ask you then, with that big match in mind, what do you do to prepare yourself for the big matches? How much preparation do you do? When do you prepare? And where do you like to prepare? And What does preparation look like for big matches for you? Put it in the chat box. Nice, Christian. Yep, get your kit ready the night before. Listen to music to get you in the right mindset. Interested to hear what those tunes are that you've got pumping in the headset. Get ready the night before. Nice, good night's sleep. Getting everything ready the night before. You guys sound like you're pretty organized already. Polishing the boots. Love it. Eating carbs for energy. We've got Alexander there saying, Alexander/Thomas saying, still stick to the same routine for all matches. Sleep well night before, good breakfast. Nathan saying, stay calm, good night's sleep and a good dinner. Trying to clear your head of pressures in other areas of your lives like school. Sleep seems to be really key in your preparation, which is fab. Fionn is saying there, think about scenarios of the match the night before and being clear. Jack saying about what I want to do well before the match. Brilliant. So it sounds to me like there's a lot of this that is based at home. There's a lot there. I imagine that you're eating at home, that you're sleeping at home. Make sure there that you've attended all the training sessions as well. All right, so going to training can help you with your preparation. You guys are saying sleep. I was hearing a lot about sleep there and preparation as in the logistics of packing. So again, I presume that happens at home. I suppose the next question in this series is what do you like and dislike about the lead up to the big match or the big matches? Let's start with the first half of that question. It's what do you like about preparing for big matches? What do you like about that night before, the morning of, getting to the ground? What are the good stuff there? Put it in the chat box. Adrenaline, nice. The excitement, yeah. Adrenaline, excitement again, yeah. Enjoying the pressure, team talk, the hope of winning and playing well, big crowd watching, excitement, seeing teammates, lots of positives there. I love the feeling of getting on the pitch again, traveling on the bus as a team. The thrill before a match, again, the adrenaline before I go to sleep. That's interesting, the adrenaline hits before sleep. Hopefully it doesn't impact sleep. And the potential. Oh, nice, Fionn saying, thinking about smashing your opposite number. Great. So lots of really positive things that you guys like there in the lead up to the big match. Is there anything then on the second half of that question that you don't like in the build up to matches? What do you try to maybe even avoid or dislike a lot about the build up to big matches, important matches that you're playing? Is there anything you don't like? Put it in the chat box. A long bus journey. I remember those playing. Yep. Budge's nodding his head. Doubt, overthinking. The car talk. Be interested to hear what that involves. Amy and Noah acknowledging the pressure. Doubt. Feeling saying the lack of sleep. Despite trying to get to bed early. The nerves that hit. Yeah, that waiting. I get that. No, I can understand that. Waiting, I just want to get started and get going. The nerves that hit. Yeah. Anyone add anything else there? Right. And I suppose my final question then is for you. What does your warm-up look like? When you're at the ground, how when, and where do you warm up? What does it consist of for you? Stretching and preparing yourself mentally as well. Nice, Amy. Stretching, warm-up stretches, throwing, getting primed. Yeah. Go and kick, build up on what you're doing, heart raiser stretching, getting into the right mindset on pitch. Practice my kicking before the rest of the team arrives. So I suppose you get there a bit earlier, perhaps even. A lot of stretching, a real physical preparation there, kind of a skills preparation. With the coaches, throwing and passing, sprints, shoulders, ankles, muscles are stretched, and am I passing and kicking? So there's a real physical element there to get your body ready and primed. Great word to be using there. But then it sounds to me like that warm up also has a skill element to it. So you are passing, you are catching, you are throwing. To be able to just feel ready to prepare or to perform, to get out there and play well. Right. So just hopefully through answering those questions, you've realized that there's a lot that you really like about the build up to big matches and your preparation around that. But we're also acknowledging and raising your awareness that perhaps there's a couple of pieces there that you're maybe not so excited about, maybe a bit more apprehensive about feeling, and acknowledging those nerves. But at the same time, you know, and you guys clearly do, about what you like and need in that warm up to feel physically ready to go out there and play well and start that match at the level that you want to be performing about. You don't want to be taking the first 10 minutes to get up to the speed of the match. You want to start off strong and the way you mean to go on. So with that though, it's really clear that we acknowledge and help you guys become aware that there really is a timeline for this organization, or to help you get organized. It seems to me that there's a couple of things that you really like to do in that preparation, but my question to you is, how consistent are you with that stuff that you like? Are you approaching it consistently in the same way? Or are actually you still experimenting and trying to figure out, well, actually, this is what I need to do the night before to have a good sleep, to feel ready to wake up the next morning, and this is how I like my morning to kind of be structured. When I get to the ground, the pitch, this is how I like things to go, or this is what my coach or my teacher is telling me how things should be done, and this is where I like to kind of slot in a wee bit more around that for myself. So we're talking about a bit of a timeline here, making sure that you're clear what your plan is and what you need to feel ready. So although you're there with your team, there's a real personal, individual level aspect of this to help you figure out what you need, because everyone on this call will go about their business slightly differently. Everyone on that squad that you're in will have a slight tweak in that preparation. I couldn't say it there, that preparation that they like to be able to play well. So I'm going to put something up here on screen, and I want you guys, if you have a pen and paper there, just to note this down and to start thinking about how you're going to go about your business, because I can tell you those athletes, those players at the top of rugby, and those guys playing tonight will be very clear on what they need to prepare to play well tonight. All right, but how are you going to do it? So have a look at this timeline. And I've given you 4 time points within this. And the first time point to consider is that last training session you have before the match. Is it a couple of days before? Is it the night before? How do you guys do it? And what do you need to get from that practice session? You know, is that, I've put a few examples in here, pulled from some work I did with previous rugby players, but that last training session, what do you need to get from it? Is it practicing some isolated skills or drills? Do you like to have a chat with your coach and just really identify what your goal/role is on the pitch, or maybe even talking strategy against what the opposition you're feeling or competing against? What do you need to feel prepared after that last training session, or even during that last training session? So I challenge you to note down a couple of key points. What do you need from that last training session? And actually, could I ask you to put it in the chat box and maybe share it with us? Budge, you've been really quiet. I might throw this one to you. Last training session before a match, what would you get from it? What did you like to gain?
Yeah, difficult. It was quite a long time ago, to be fair.
Bit of pressure.
Black and white TV back then. You know what? I think as I got more experienced, the last session for me was just to calm my nerves and more than anything, and not to worry about, you know, if I made a few mistakes or in the last session or I dropped the ball or whatever, because invariably that has no effect upon how you're going to play the next day or 2 days time. So it was very much, if I made a mistake, then I would go in my own little world. I'd go, oh, well, that's all right. I got rid of that mistake. I might have made that during the game. But if I didn't make any mistakes, I go, brilliant. I'm on form. So I'd always kind of counter it a little bit.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think when you're young, it's a little bit harder to counter that as much because you don't have as much experience. But I'd have the odd chat. I think it's something worth noting that everybody's really different, and all players around you will be really different. So I would have a bit of I like to be quite calm on the day before, because I knew the next day I would have to raise my mental approach and how I was going to play, just because of the nature of the game that I used to play. So that day before the last session, I would be very calm and just, you know, have a few jokes, play a few jokes on a few of the boys and keep it quite lighthearted. But that wasn't the same for everybody else. And as a teammate, you have to accept that some people will prepare differently to how you prepare. I don't know whether that's answered your question or not. I haven't got a clue.
It does, and it gives me, I'd say, gold star, because really we're looking at the responses there in the chat. All of you are asking for different things here, and that kind of follows through with what Budge is saying, that being aware that you need to figure out what you need, right? And I would say to you, I wouldn't be worrying about the rest of your teammates at this stage. We need you to keep your focus on your preparation. And there's chats there's some skill practice, but just touching on one other thing there that you raised, Budge, around, well, you didn't need it to go perfectly. You didn't need it to be ideal to know that actually I'm ready. I feel ready to go out there and perform. And we quite often hear at this stage where superstition comes in with players, that they need to finish off on a good kick, a good pass, whatever it may be, and I need to be doing my 10 whatevers or whatever number of skills or drills. And so I would say to you guys, caution, right? Be cautious around that.
Could I say, I think that's a brilliant point. So superstition for me was I always carried a horseshoe because it brought me.
Wow.
And so
old
it
school.
had no effect. I didn't have to do 10 passes, or didn't have to tie my laces in a certain way. I just had the horseshoe, and that was good enough. And so that had you didn't have to do anything. You just had it in your bag. But that was me. I was a country boy, and a horseshoe brought me luck. So, you know, have something that's really simple and just flat line.
Yeah. Because it can get a bit complicated, and if it doesn't whatever it is, it's your lucky underwear or shoes on specific feet at specific orders. But I suppose the big caution and flashing lights here for you guys is I'm happy, you know, I would encourage you to be experimental, to really explore how this routine and structure looks like for you, but you also need flexibility in it. All right, and the fact that, well, actually I know the last training session I need this X, Y, and Z in place to feel ready. But if it doesn't happen, it's not the end of the world, and it will not necessarily impact the level you're playing at. What does impact your playing ability is if you become so fixated on superstition or something you feel like you must have. All right, guys, thanks very much for putting those last training session suggestions in there. Lots of really specific individual aspects there, but I'm going to move you on then to the night before a match. What does that look like for you guys? Is it low key? I put down movie night there. I put down organizing lifts or the logistics. Lots of you had identified that you like to pack your bag the night before, go to bed early. Anything there that you think is important for you to have in that preparation the night before? Anything we've missed? Nice, Mark. Likes to keep things, sounds to me like a bit of sport, going for a run, nice to keep, like to keep loose, relaxed. Or busy. Sarah, hot shower, early night, solid dinner. Nice. Joshua goes to youth club and sees mates outside of rugby for some crack. Fabulous. I've just seen the response there. Alexander asked Budge, did he ever forget the horseshoe? And he said no, it stayed in his kit bag the whole season. What a treat. Morris is saying, read a bit before bed keeps my head calm. Lovely. Okay, so we're hearing a lot of nice kind of low level activities that keeps you relaxed, even loose, the body feeling loose and perhaps ready to go when you wake up, or helping you sleep well as well. So let's move on to the morning of the match. What do you like to do? I know start times can vary for you guys, but what do you like to do when you get up? Is there a breakfast that you know keeps you fueled but isn't too heavy? Do you like to get out the house early doors? What do you guys like to do? I put down there a pre-match breakfast. Some of the rugby players I've worked with in the past are really clear on when they take their coffee, etc. There's eggs and porridge there from Finn. Charles is saying goes outside for a walk. Brilliant. Do you like to shower the morning of a match? Do you just get out of bed, throw on the kit and check your bag? How do you like to go about it? And is there a breakfast there that you know is pretty good? Have you got your water bottle filled up already? What time do you like to get up? If you've had a good night's sleep, or if you have gone to bed early, are you up early? And I know small portion of porridge, prep a banana smoothie for after. Nice. Right, what do you do at the match then? Sleep on the bus of an away match. Lucky you. I never got to do that with my sport. So let's move on to the last point there for you to consider in your preparation. At the ground. How does your team do it? How does your team like to prepare? How does your coach like things to run? How does your captain like things to run? And finally, what space have you got in there for your own individual preparation? How do you get to work on your own stretching, your own skills that you will be called upon to demonstrate in the match? Some examples I put up there are team talk. How do you view the team talk? Is it important for you? Do you get strapped? Do you stretch? What do you need in that warm up to feel ready to go? As Budge clearly said, each of us will be individual. There'll be some people in that changing room on the team who like high levels of activation that need to be really pumped, have the tunes duff duff duffing. But then you probably have quiet members of the team that maybe are trying to keep things really low key and quiet and relaxed. So that level of activation is a little lower, but yet these players are playing on the same team. We've got some practicing set pieces, taping socks, communication with your team, talk tactics, team huddle, roar. I would imagine a roar is lifting that level of activation. Tactics on the whiteboard, lifting blocks on, warm up, get a jog, stretches, passing, talking to teammates, practice my skills. Fab. So the whole point of me kind of raising your awareness here of this timeline is start to piece this together. Start to identify what it is that you need in each of these 4 areas. Take a note of it. And can you do that consistently before the big matches? Because when we do this, when we follow the routine, the timeline consistently, we become very comfortable with it. And when we become very comfortable, how do we approach a match? Perhaps a little more relaxed, being able to gain a bit of perspective on things, and it'll allow us potentially some space there to have fun and enjoy, which we quite often neglect when it comes to big matches. So my challenge to you then, guys, is to really think about, can you note down on that timeline how you like to go about things? But that's the real physical, technical, maybe even strategic element of your performance. But we haven't talked about that mental aspect of our preparation. So I've got a question here for you. What, if anything, makes you anxious or uptight before big matches? What thoughts do you experience? What, if any, physical impact do these thoughts have? And how does it impact your focus on big match day? Have a think and put it into the chat box for me. Previous losses. Brilliant, Christian. Totally agree. That having lost previously against a team can really impact the way we're thinking and approaching our next match. Yeah, self-doubt creeps in a bit, and again, focusing on that the win-loss record can really impact our confidence, and that doubt can increase, and perhaps that stinking thinking we acknowledged last time can start to creep in. Doing well is a really positive way to view things. If you hear a teammate's injured, what happens? Where does your thinking take you? Coming back from injury, again, does doubt creep in? What impact does that have on your confidence before you step up to that big match? And the unknown, and the nervousness or anxiety that comes around with, well, I don't know this team, we've not played against them, or you haven't played against this specific player before. Do you become a bit worried? Do you become a bit anxious about what the outcome will be? And I have another question for you guys. We're talking about preparation here. We've got a really clear kind of physical and logistical timeline there. But what about the mental preparation and concentration and focus for you guys? What do you do? What does that mental preparation for big match day look like? Can you share it with us in that chat box? If there is no mental preparation, put that in the chat box as well. Let's see where you guys are at. Because at your age and stage of development, you're still exploring that physical, technical, strategic timeline. But what about the mental side of things? Lots there around playlists. And I would imagine that helps with that focus. Yeah. Perhaps even raises those activation levels to get us in the zone or feeling ready to go. Trying to keep a cool head because it's just any game. Great perspective taking. Yeah. Hopefully your head believes that. I think of what I have to do to help my team win. Brilliant focus, Joshua. Because what are you doing there? You're focusing on yourself and your role. And then that allows you to really focus on what you have control over, what you can do something about. All right. Keeping experimenting, going over what I've learned at training, ready to be really clear what that's going to look like on match day, on big match day. Being clear mentally on the tactics and your role and responsibilities on the field. And being really clear on those calls that come through, either from your captain or the coach on the sideline. So there is mental preparation going on, guys, right? But again, I'm going to throw it back to you and get you to start thinking, well, what is it that you like about the mental preparation? Do you need to be really clear on those calls? Do you need to be really clear on what your role and responsibilities are on the pitch? Do you know that if you're feeling confident, you generally play better? We've got Alistair throwing in their routine. Yeah, how you like to go about things, right? So I suppose my question to you guys is to really start with that physical and technical aspect of your preparation. Where does the mental preparation, what can you put in place to help increase your confidence? All right, to help you feel ready to go out onto the set foot on that pitch when the whistle blows, to be able to play at the level that you want to play. So one of the points that really has arisen there was around kind of the activation and being able to really control it. Now I talk about activation in the way like it's that heartbeat racing, that fizzing that we feel perhaps in our fingertips, that feeling of being ready to go, or maybe even people refer to it as being in the zone. I'm ready for that whistle to blow. Do you know what that feels like for you? Do you know where your optimal point is, where actually this is me in my zone, this is me in ready to go and play in my best? But are you also aware that perhaps you're overactivated, or you're too nervous, or you're too stressed, or you're feeling too much pressure? Do you know when you go past that kind of ideal point? Or do you know when your activation levels are too low? Where perhaps you've been playing against this team, you know they're bottom of the league, or you've been playing against the opposition for years and you know they're not very good, you just can't get up for the match. That's when we start to realize that our activation levels aren't where we want them to be. And what do we do to be able to lift our activation levels or increase them? So when we look at lowering those activation levels, we know having a physical action, whether it's stretching or light jogging or shaking out, can really start to loosen up our bodies, because that tension that comes with being nervous and anxious can have a real physical reaction to it. I'm hunching my shoulders because quite often we feel it in this top half of our body, and we know if we're feeling tense there, the ball is never going to do what we want it to do. So can you stretch? Can you keep loose and relaxed? You guys do it already. Music. All right. Is that music getting you to where you want to be? All right. Is it a good duff, duff, duff? Is it more a chilled? Is it just kind of those earworm tunes that are your usual, just easy listening? Have you started to experiment with that playlist that you're listening to? What's going to keep you ready, feeling ready to go at that optimal level of activation? And then finally, we're acknowledging those routines, that familiarity, that comfort that comes with doing something the same way multiple times. Doesn't matter if it's a big match day or you're playing kind of house rugby. What are your routines to get ready? Because it brings comfort and familiarity, and that builds our confidence. And that's where we want to get you guys. And I suppose then we talk about focus. And one of the pieces that we often lose focus and sight of is enjoying that game of rugby and being able to actually find some fun, being able to enjoy the actions, being there, the opportunities, that where you're playing, the arenas that you're playing in. Can you find fun and enjoyment? Because I tell you what, I have no doubt that's actually why you started playing the sport in the first place. You're there because it's fun and it's enjoyable. And we quite often on those big occasions can lose focus on that. But actually, if we can get you on those big match days to really focus on why you're there and enjoy it, the outcome and the win will take care of itself. So can you remind yourself to have fun? Can you remind yourself to enjoy the moment? And alongside that comes, can you get yourself to slow down and take your time? Because without doubt, when the activation in those nerves and that energy kicks in, we can get a bit speedy. We want to get through and get things moving. But actually that can be at the detriment of our set plays, our communication with our teammates. Can you, in those pressured big match moments, slow down and take your time and allow yourself the opportunity to stick to those routines, those plans that you've worked really hard in putting in place? So 3 key points there. Where's your level of activation? Become aware of it. Can you focus on enjoying that game? And can you slow things down and take your time? But what happens when actually those levels of activation are too high? All right, and I'm going to take you through what we call box breathing. And box breathing is a 4-4-4-4. Simply a box. And we talk about 4 seconds. Now, box breathing was developed by the US Navy SEALs, and it really helps us just to focus on bring our focus internal and get us to focus on our breath, which will drop our levels of activation. Because you can imagine in a Oh, fab, Murray. Murray's been in Sunday Best, my Surface. This is one of my, I don't know if I know that one. He shakes his head, but as you can imagine, Navy SEALs are in quite pressured positions, or can find themselves in quite pressured positions. So they need to monitor those levels of activation, just like you do for your performance. So a box breath is simply that you're following the sides of a box. And I have no doubt most of you will have heard of this, but have you put it on the rugby pitch? Have you put it in those critical moments? So we know that a box has 4 sides, and if we can get you to simply count for 4 with every breath in, hold your breath for 4 and exhale for 4 seconds. And again, hold for 4 seconds. Simply following that box will slow down your breathing, help you to recover, For those of you that are executing isolated skills out there, whether it's kicking, whether or not it's throwing, you may need to quickly drop those levels of activation down at those key moments. Can you do 2 box breaths? Can you do however many box breaths it takes for you to drop things down to be able to get yourself to the point where you feel you can execute your skill well? But for another alternate, I suppose, for us is to connect to the present moment, because if we are in the present moment, or as I say, be with your feet, if we can get you to connect to the right here, right now, you're not worried about the outcome. You're not looking ahead to what's to come. And at the same time, you're not looking back to that drop pass or that mistake you made or that missed tackle. Because the only thing you have control of is the right here, right now. And a 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, again, is simply that. What are 5 things that you can see? Is it the corner flags, the clouds in the sky, the tree in the background, the bug on the ground? What have we put down there? What are 5 things you can see? What are 4 things that you can feel? Is it, currently the chair you're sitting on, the shirt on your back, your rugby shorts, the warmth of your feet and your socks, the tightness of your wrist strap? What can you hear when you're out on the pitch? Is it the coach on the sideline, your teammates, the wind, your nanny shouting on the sideline? 2 things you can smell: cut grass, deep heat, who knows? And 1 thing you can taste, perhaps your last drink. Again, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 is really there to get you to focus on yourself, and it slows down and helps you to really gain perspective on that stinking thinking, helps you with recovery after mistakes, or if you find yourself really worried about what's happening next, actually, let's connect right here. Let me focus on what I need to do. All right, so just a couple of activities there for you to start experimenting with. Now, you can start doing this breath work and the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. That's good. You can do it at any area of your life, but practice it. Practice it at training, because if you're relying on this simply on game day, just like any of your other physical skills, it's not going to work. You need to practice this stuff. But all of this is hopefully raising your awareness, educating you that you can gain, you can start planning and preparing the mental side of your performance, of your rugby game, as well as that physical and technical and tactical elements. But I'm going to finish off with one, I suppose, aspect when it comes to focus and concentration that can be impacted by big matches, big game day. And oops, apologies, I found a typo. When we talk about focusing, what do you do in those first 5 minutes of a big match, of a big game? What do you do to focus and bring that attentional control to your job and what you should be doing? And then what do you do the last 5 minutes of the first half? How can you really keep that focus on you doing your job and your role? What about after? On that first 5 minutes of the second half? What can you do to bring your focus at critical moments in the match? Is it perhaps if there's a break because someone's injured, what can you do to make sure you're not distracted, that you're here? If you've got set plays, or even a critical moment could be you coming off the bench. What can you do to be able to get your focus, to get your concentration, to get your confidence on the match, to that point, that level of activation, to the point where you want it to be to play well? All of this you can plan. Look at what other team structure is to find out where the space is at the start of the game. Absolutely, Joshua. Absolutely. And that could be simply your role in those first 5 minutes. but do we have a plan? Mark saying make those tackles and make as many runs as you can and just make one more point. All right, but what can you do that first 5 minutes to start the way you want to? How can you finish strong? How can you start that second half strong? Sarah's really simple response, keep on your toes. Yeah, it could be that bouncing, it could be keeping loose, relaxed, ready for the ball to come to you, or ready to intercept or tackle whatever's coming your way. So hopefully, guys, you are taking or we're having a look at what impacts your confidence, and looking at the big match prep. There we go. That we're looking at the big match preparation, the physical, the technical, the timeline there, but we're also starting to look at that mental preparation and how we monitor and control those activation levels and those key moments in our mental timeline on that focusing, to be able to play the way we want to play. So I suppose I'm going to say best of luck to everyone this weekend, and let's hope the men in green play well this evening. And we've got one more session, I think, but I'll pass it over to you, Budge.
Brilliant. Thanks, Leanne. Murray, great song. Great song. Mine, folks, was I got a brand new combine harvester by the Wurzels. So if you want to look that up, it's an absolute blinder. So there you go. Listen, Leanne, thank you very much. Guys on the call, good luck tomorrow with all, there's lots of big games happening. Oh, there you go. Somebody liked my song. Brilliant. So good luck with your games tomorrow. Take some of these things in that Leanne's spoken about tonight, but also when you're watching the game tonight, you'll see some of those actions in place. You'll see the breaths. All the teams are doing it at the minute. The 4 breaths, or the holding for 4 seconds, hold for 4, breathe out for 4, hold for 4, breathe in for 4. You'll see it. Ireland do it a lot, and the French are doing it as well. So check that out. Try and have a look at what the players are doing, how they're focusing, how do they refocus after a mistake or an error, how do they refocus after a score, either way, whether when they've scored or when they've not scored. So just learn from everything as much as you can and try and put it in practice over the next few weeks. But hey, listen, we've rabbited on for long enough, and there's a massive game about to start, so I want you all to get in front of the TV and make sure you watch it. All right, so thank you very much for being on tonight, and I hope you've taken a wee bit from it. Okay, you're all free to go.
Bye, everyone.
Cheers.
See you, folks.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks very much. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
All right.
Thank you.
See
Thank
later.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.